I actually bought two. See these dolls?
Oh, here we go.
See these ones?
What are they made of?
Well, when you look at it, but it's actually fabric that's been painted and painted and painted and tightened. But they're quite hard.
It is quite hard.
Yes, it feels a bit like wood and it looks a bit like wood. But yeah, they are good. Now, I bought two very special dolls to show you, and they've got a poem too. My dear old Nan passed away quite a few years ago, and she had what was going on all the time. And every time she spoke to my Mum would say, "Oh, what did you do today, Nan, love?" And my Nan would say, "Oh, she told me that I have to do this. Oh, she told me I have to do this." And we'd say, "Who's she, Nan?" "Oh, you know, she. They said to do this." So my mum was always very caught up on who she and they were. So this is she and they. This is Sheila. And they don't stand up very well anymore, but that's okay. We all like to lay down on the job. And this is Staley. Okay? And these are made from my nan's dresses and with some of her jewellery. And I'd like to tell you just a little story about Sheila and they, because I think you all know them. I know a couple of old girls I'd like you to meet. Their years of life's learning has made them complete. Thiele Broadstreet and Sheila McGinty are always together, just wanting to tell you in any old weather. Their knowledge and wisdom can be heard far and near, and you can always learn something from them. Do not fear. They meet every day for coffee and sweets. They know everything about everyone they meet. They know all the things that no one else knows, and in every instance know the cons and the pros. They know all the things that advice they can give to one and to all, and as long as you take it from their grace, you won't fall. They know about families and houses and pets. They gather information from all that they've met. They're nice old girls, really, at work or at play, and once you meet them, you'll know they prefer to be called she and they. So my mum has these at home, and I don't know if it still helps, but it did at the time. But these are all tiny little pieces of people's scraps that I've collected and sewn together.
I like this.
And I think this one looks like, I called this an aerial view of Toy Town, even before Bowditch came out. I think it looks like looking at a town.
Very nice.
And then I thought, I wonder what it would look like if I did it in black. Oops. So this is the same thing, but done with a black background.
Well, very dramatic. Don't you think?
And then I thought, you know, who's bought fabric before and knows about the selvage on the edge of it with the writing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this quilt is just made of the selvages. I collected all the selvages from everybody. And if you look, you can see the writing and the dots on all of it. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. I like collecting really small scraps, and this was a quilt I made while my husband was very unwell and up until he passed away. And they're scrappy stars.
Yes.
So there's something like 2,000 points, tiny little points here, and they're sewn onto 1.5-inch squares. So
Beautiful.
it was a lot of fun, really. Yeah. And what else have I
How
done?
long did it take you to make it?
It took me years. I
it
started
took
making
you-
it.
It took you a year.
My husband was diagnosed with cancer in 2012, and we travelled from Broken Hill to Adelaide to Broken Hill having treatment. And I used to take my small sewing machine and a little box of triangles, and I just sew triangles and squares together. So I finished it last year for the exhibition. So it was really nice to have it finished. Yeah.
Did you take a prize?
Yes.
Did you take a prize?
It did. I was so surprised. I won a prize. Yeah, couldn't believe it. I also love playing with denim,
Oh.
and nobody's ever brave enough to leave a pair of jeans at my place because I have been known to cut them up or take the bottom leg off. So this is my collection of denim made into a quilt. And every year as quilters, our president gives the people on the leadership team a bit of a challenge. And Chris here was our president not long ago, and her challenge was one word: line.
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 And me.
Line below the line.
Line. Just line. L-I-N-E.
But what does she mean?
What does she mean?
Well,
Good
yeah.
question.
Hang the
Someone-
clothes on the line.
Someone made an airline. Someone made a
Railway line.
railway line. Someone made a
Line.
line. There was lots of lines, and I love stitching at night at home. So these are my lines. I just stitched lots and lots of lines. And my last thing to show you before I get totally outdone here is one of my favourite quilts. We did this in a workshop, and it's really quite lovely. All the flowers are individually cut out and put on. So that was a lot of fun too. I modelled this on my waist,
Yeah.
but I did it a little while ago from an old photo. What, darling?
Did you make that?
Yes, I did. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to give the microphone to Chris, and I'll bring it down and show you so you can see the flowers and
The flowers are all cut out.
It's all made up of lots of little bits of bright fabrics stitched on top of each other. Everyone, my name is Chris, and I have loads of blogs and interesting quilts too, but Cindy's a hard act to follow. I'm going to show you Kathy's quilts. Kathy's the one behind the phone at the moment. So these are Kathy's quilts. This first one was a challenge, similar to the one that Cindy talked about earlier. The reason we don't do feathers is that we don't know how. That's often the reason. And that's been done with fabric paints. So Kathy has drawn out the background and then she's painted it and then quilted it. Isn't it just adorable? They're a special paint, and it almost looks like silk or satin, literally paints. Now you wouldn't know it, but Kathy is a cat lover. And we had a challenge this year about happiness. And this is Kathy's. Happiness is a cat.
Very cute.
And I think that's truly when Kathy is happy. But again, Kathy has used the stitching that you saw on Cindy's cushion down the back there, on her bag, but also on her challenge, the bug challenge. Similar kind of stitching.
So see, this is got that lovely big stitching on it as well.
Joe.
Quilting has definitely changed. Now, knowing Kathy's love of cats, I'm going to suspect that this quilt is a cat quilt.
We all know who owns it,
Do you want to hold it up? Yeah.
Oh, look.
Whoop, here we go.
Wow.
Aren't they gorgeous? They came on a panel and Kathy has cut them apart.
This is Catherine's
Framed
quilt.
It's me.
These
And
are
then
Kathleen's made all these
His
ones.
quilts between them.
Oh,
Gorgeous,
couple of weeks.
isn't it?
Couple weeks.
oh, no more. Are you kidding?
So all of these pieces are cut out.
And then they're all sewn together, and then the blocks are all sewn together, and then the borders are all put on, and then it's sandwiched with a backing, and then we quilt it. And then we hand sew the binding on. It's really interesting. I'm also on the appraisal committee, and some of these quilts to replace are worth thousands and thousands of dollars. Yes.
Who here has had a cat in a previous life? Were you cat owners?
Anybody had a cat?
Yep.
I've got a
Yeah,
cat
cats.
that sits on my sewing machine while I sew.
Thank you, Kathy, for showing us your
Any
quilts.
damaged quilts by your cats?
Mine.
Any damaged work by the cats? No?
No,
No?
I
Scraps?
haven't heard of it.
The cat, my dopey cat sits there.
When she's happy, she'll sit looking at me, and when she thinks we've done too much sewing, she sits with her bum in my face. And when she's really had enough, she flicks the tip and knocks the bobbin and the cotton all falls off.
So I've got an alarm.
I manage a program called Flinders Kids, and we make quilts for the children's ward at Flinders Medical Centre. A couple of months ago, someone made a quilt with these doggy blocks, and I thought, well, what a wonderful pattern to embrace. So I set out the challenge, how many doggy quilts can we get? And I'm pretty sure we've got around about 19 or 20 quilts just like this. And the kids absolutely love them. In the hospitals, the wards are very white, very sterile, and the nursing staff say that the kids who are there for long term, to have something bright and happy on their bed, really makes their stay in hospital so much more enjoyable for them.
Happy, aren't they?
And they get to take their quilt home. Yesterday I got an email from the family. They have a tiny little baby. You know, she must be only about five to 6 months old, and she was born with cranial facial deformity. And she's had numerous operations, and she was given one of our quilts, and the family is delighted. And that's the kind of story we like to hear.
They're a bit of fun.
There's some more here.
Come in on the... Yes. So a lot of our members make these.
We just ask that the quilts be nice and bright and cheerful. And when you get one like this, which is all giraffes, then you know
Giraffes.
the kids are they upside down?
Wow.
No? The kids are going to love it.
That's incredible. I remember tails dangling too.
Yeah, there's a tail. Yeah, there's a few dangling tails.
Aren't they adorable?
Yes.
So you can see that when little Lees go into hospital, they have something like this,
Yeah.
really brightens their life. And this is another version of a doggy quilt. I'm about to get our people to make lots of these. They're like little Scotty dogs. They're gorgeous, aren't they? Okay. Now, as for my own quilts, how many of you remember getting flour in big flour bags? Do you ever get the big
Flour
10
bags?
kilo flour bags?
Yep.
I
Okay.
bet on the farm you got flour, your
Oh,
flour and
flour.
flour bags, didn't you?
So I made a quilt. This is for my son who lives in Canada, and this is all flour bags. And of course we still know about Lauki, they're still around. I don't know about a lion is still around. And I just thought that's a lovely memory. And the flowers here are Australian natives.
The line one, is that the
Oh,
one
I made-
over the Morphet Bridge where the line's on top? Is that
Well,
the
it
line
probably was originally, because
Okay.
they make custard powder and other things as
Right,
well.
okay.
No. I think it came back into being when we all got red machines, didn't it?
Yes, probably red machines brought it back in, but now they're paper bags, so they're not anywhere near as fun. But in the 1930s, in America during the Great Depression, their flour, they call them flour sacks, their flour sacks were printed fabrics, in that case, sorry. Their flour sacks were printed, and given the depression and the poverty, people actually made clothing out of the flour sacks.
Yeah.
But ours are a whole lot more boring than that. Okay, my personal passion is to get old tablecloths and quilt them to death. So this started out.
There's lovely tablecloth in the glory box.
Wow.
So this was a tablecloth.
That's amazing.
It's hard to
These
tell.
tablecloths, did you have them? Yeah.
It was a very plain linen one with lots of cutouts, and I mounted it on this coloured fabric, but of course that shows through.
Can I just say to you, see all the lines that are on this quilt? That's what we talk about when we say machine quilting. So Chris, did anyone ever have a machine, sewing machine? And you know, when you put your foot down, it goes When you do this, you take your feed dogs away, and when you put your foot down, if you don't move the fabric, it goes in the same spot. So Chris's skill to move the fabric,
has created every line on that. I'm flat out drawing my name on the sewing machine, let alone feathers and flowers. So her skills are just beautiful.
So I've got a couple of others. This one was a table runner. It was actually one of the very first ones I did.
Wow.
And you probably remember some of those on your dressing table or on your dining room table. I was given some tiny, tiny pearls from an older lady in Broken Hill many years ago. So I put those in the middle, and a friend gave me the red beads that are all around the outside. They're teeny tiny, and the beading took hours, longer than the quilting.
And Chris has won awards for all these quilts.
This is
This should be in the art gallery.
this is a simple cotton tablecloth.
Oh.
And you would have all had tablecloths like this. So again, I just quilted designs all over it and then beaded it. Quilted it in blue to give it a little bit more life. Just two more. And this was a small supper cloth. You probably had lots of these in your linen cupboard in times gone by. And this last one is one of my favourites. A very nice man who runs an antique quilt shop in London gifted me this tablecloth. It's handmade, and there's not one single square or rectangle that is the same. And I just love its quirkiness. So that was all drawn thread work done by hand by someone many, many years ago. And I like to think that the people who made these cloths would be happy that I've given them a second life.
so often, don't we? We put all these beautiful things away and we don't use them.
Of course, we don't use it.
We don't use them, so it's lovely
They
to
should
see
be on
them.
show.
Yeah, like this.
Well, that ends our show. It's a time. I've got some older quilts. Are you interested in seeing some antique quilts?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, we can have a look at a couple of antique quilts. Yeah, grab the top one. This one is from about the 1820s, 1830s. I have tried to get it clean. It doesn't come clean. And one side is really quite
What do you mean by
dodgy.
clean? Should it be white or should it be...
Well, I think it probably started out as either white or light cream, but
Okay.
at 200 years old, it's
Yeah.
done its time. But one edge is very dirty, and the theory is that that's the side, because the beds were often pushed up against the wall then in small rooms. That was the side that people sat with their shoes on, or stood there making the bed. So the boots and the shoes made it dirty, but it also could have come from somewhere that had a dirt floor, you know, something from the 1820s, a long time ago, but beautifully quilted. A little bit tatty, the binding is quite frayed, but yes, all hand quilted. From the
1870s.
1820s, 1830s.
So if we show you the back of it, can you see all those little dents?
Oh,
And no electricity back then, so this would have been done by candlelight or lantern light. It's unbelievable to imagine what life would have been like in some of those primitive times.
You can feel a bit of the texture of it.
But I've soaked it and washed it, and it just doesn't come any cleaner.
Yes, the hand quilted. Right, next.
This is a traditional log cabin quilt, and it's from the 1930s, so about 100 years old. And log cabin blocks always have either a red or a pink square in the middle, because that's the fire in a log cabin, and in front of it is light. So that's the light half, and behind it is shadow. So if we take this block here in the corner, here, that's the light, that's the shadow, and the fire is in the middle. So it's called a log cabin quilt. Like Cindy's quilts, all made of scraps.
And most of these would have been some clothes that they were for people to eat.
Look, back 100 years ago, it would be all by hand, and you know, they had busy working days back then, so it would be what they did for an hour a day. Probably
No
took
TV
them
for that.
months and months and months. Yes.
And probably no candle, like it would all be just over candle.
This is my prized quilt. This is called a Sanderson Star, and it's an English quilt. Quilting history predominantly comes from the United States or England. This is called a Sanderson Star. And the lady who designed these and marked them all out would send them out to people whose job it was just to quilt them. I went to visit this antique quilt shop in London, and on the train, all the way there, I'd say, I am not going to buy a quilt, I am not going to buy a quilt.
And the other half was saying, yes, I am, yes, I am.
And then I said, unless it's a Sanderson Star, and he had a couple, so that one came home with me. But it's pretty amazing to think that quilting's been happening literally for thousands of years. There's very early history of it, and it's gone from the utilitarian right through to
Would the
really
Egyptians
modern.
have done quilts? The Egyptians or?
Probably, because night times would have been cold in the desert, so padded clothing
Yeah.
was there. Oh, Cindy's still pulling stuff out.
I've got more. Okay, go to the case empty.
This is my my design based on, it's upside down,
And it's
Cindy.
upside down.
Based on a quilt that's in a Western Australian historic house. It was made by an early Australian called Sarah Evans, but this is my version of it.
Who done this?
I made this one. Yeah. And it was my husband's idea. Sarah just had random flowers on hers, but my husband suggested that I have these ovals with unique flowers, and then I combine them all in the centre. So the flowers that are in the small ovals are all in the big one. So, I worked on that for about a year. Yeah.
And that's all hand done.
No, that's by machine. Yeah, I'm pretty passionate about my quilting. I put in a few hours.
I was going to say when I first started speaking to you, hello, my name's Cindy, and it's been 15 hours since I put needle to fabric, but I thought I'd better not.
Okay, there was a very famous convict ship that came to Australia called the Rajah, and the Quakers in London gave the women convicts, I think it was £1, it might have been 2 pounds of fabric and needle and thread. And on the ship on the way over, they made this quilt called the Rajah quilt. It's quite big, it's really only just the top, and it's not particularly square. I saw it in Brisbane several years ago because it's now, I think, in one of the major
Canberra.
museums in Australia.
In Canberra.
The original.
It's in Canberra.
It's in
Canberra.
It's in Canberra. And I counted the number of squares on each side, and one side had a whole lot more than the other, so it's a bit of a skewy quilt top. But one of our friends created a pattern, and a number of us made a reproduction. So this is identical to what convict women made on the ship Raja on their journey from England out here. It's a lot of fun to make, and it makes you think about the different circumstances that people make quilts in.
I found one more.
One more.
Last one.
I have a very dear friend who won a major worldwide prize with her quilt 1776. Her name is Pam Holland. And this is a fabric copy of soldiers' quilts. Soldiers made quilts out of their uniforms, but because they were very thick to sew, they inlaid them like woodwork. So they cut out the shapes and push it into a background that had the same shape cut out of it. And this one is a small version of a quilt that's in the Bautzen Museum in Germany. And Pam, who designed this version of it, found that her family originated from there, so it's got special meaning to her. But soldiers, in their recovery and in their downtime, made a lot of quilts. And there's several people who collect military quilts. By hand, and they cut out a shape from the background, cut out the shape in another fabric from their uniforms, push it in, and then it's like whip stitched from the back, so you can't see the stitching, and they're absolutely stunning.
This has been done with machine.
I did that one in the machine, no, by machine. By machine. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our quilt show
Yeah,
today.
fantastic.
It's been lovely sharing our passion. I guess you can all see that we're pretty mad keen about our quilting. And as Cindy said, it's been
How
15 hours.
How long did it take you to learn and to do this?
I started quilting in 1976. I was pregnant with my first child, and I made him a quilt, and the obsession started then, and it's just got worse.
It doesn't get any better.
How about that?
Give a good round of applause. That was amazing.
Thank you.